Hello and welcome to Japan Expert Insights and our Business Insights room. Every Thursday, Tim Sullivan and I, Maya Matsuoka, lead a discussion looking for insights, developments, and new opportunities for the business in Japan. In this podcast, we welcome comments, questions, and opinions. So if you haven't done so yet, join us next time. In the meantime, you can find us at japanexpertinsights.com and our YouTube channel, where we upload all the conversations on Japanese politics, business insights, and the role of Japan in the Indo-Pacific region.
Good morning and thank you for joining us to everybody who is in the room at the moment. Today we have Jovan Reboredo with us. You know him from previous rooms of ours. This is Japan Expert Insights, Thursday morning room, where we talk about business experiences, careers, also business opportunities related to Japan. Today we've got Jovan Reboredo with Tim and me, and we asked Jovan to talk about Web3 because it has become quite a popular topic, not only among computer geeks, but also among many in the general public. Still, there is very little information about it, and as some experts are very supportive of it and other experts are very much against it, with, I believe, everybody's opinion being supported by their own understanding of what Web3 is and probably their own experience with this new thing. So Web3, the term was first created in 2014, and believe it or not, it has been already 8 years, almost 8 years of the term being around, and still there is very little information which can satisfy people, even in the general public, who are curious and want to know more about it. I want to give a shout out to Yuka, who has joined us today, because she actually was the one who asked and who prompted us to have this room about Web3. Yuka, thank you very much for that. So, Jovan, shall we start?
Thank you, Maya and team, for the invitation. I'm very happy to be back here. And just a disclaimer, I'm not an expert, a super expert in this. I have had experiences doing a blockchain and helping some developments of AI in blockchain, but I'm not as a full-time dedicated expert in these Web3 technologies. But I have had experiences, and I want to share what I know and what I have done. So again, thank you for coming here, and I want to start talking about the differences of this Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. Why these numbers? I think it's been a trend of making numbers like Industrial Revolution 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5G, 4G, 3G, 6G, 7G in the communications. So it's a trend that also happened in the same years. If I was thinking about this morning, that the Industrial Revolution 4, for instance, and all these 5G numbers, these come from all this kind of same period from 2010, 11 to 2015. So it was kind of a big trend on those years to try to make distinctions of what is the past, what is the present, and what might be the future, which I found that kind of interesting. So Web3, the concept was coined in 2014, as I said, and this refers to obviously three different kinds of webs in which I want to talk about to understand why Web3 and is there was any Web 2 and Web 1. Well, accordingly to the definition of Web 3, there was Web 1 and Web 1.0 and Web 2.0. And I've been researching not just for this topic, for this conversation today, but since before, what is the difference of Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and Web 3? And my personal, a summary, synthesized conclusion that I come is the database of how you store the files in a networked communication system. So let's start with Web 1.0, which was the first, according to these definitions of Web 1, 2, and 3, the first instance of the web, in which is a server's file system. What it means, it's a little bit technical, but you have a web server, like imagine like in Amazon or Azure, you have a big, like very powerful machines running a lot of services. So one of these applications is called web server. The web server, you put files in a directory, and then anyone can access anyone who knows the address, for instance, www.yahoo.com or www.google.com, they can go directly to that file system and access the HTML files. So this is a very simple way of communication, of getting the files from the web servers to your computer, just making a copy basically from that web server to your local computer. So this is server file system in which you have HTML. In the web 1.0, it was supposedly very basic, just copy paste files, HTML files, and it's like nodes basically, like you have text files downloaded to your computer. It was about from the 1991, 1990 to the 2003, 2004, in which this period of Web 1.0 happened. And then there was kind of the revolution of the definition according to the Web 3 classification. The Web 2.0, it's something more related, just coming to the distinction of 1, 2, and 3 to the database again, the relational database management system. Basically, you have a website again, and in this website, you have access to a database that is more complex. You can access a specific data points in the database, from the database. So that's the main characteristic of Web 2.0, the database. Again, the Web 1.1 was a simple server, the server's file system, and in the Web 2, also the website and the web server, there was a relational database management system running along with the web server. So you have a little distinction of kind of more information that you can access from your local computer to the web server. So the Web 3, the main distinction from the Web 1 and 1.2 is that this kind of blockchain type, decentralized crypto database. So I want to emphasize database because at the end, any blockchain, any crypto, when you hear blockchain and crypto, at the end it's a database system, a database that is managed in a different way and is structured in a different way and is stored in a different way. But at the end, it's a database. So you can see if we can understand like the blockchain as a database, it helped me a lot to understand very quickly other concepts. So in summary, like I want to go back really quickly. Web 1 is a server's file system. Web 2 is a relational database management system. And the Web 3 is this kind of blockchain type decentralized crypto, which I will explain a little bit more later. So I want just to go to the synthesis of what are the differences between the Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and Web 3. And very strangely, many fans of Web 3, they don't call Web 3.0, they call Web 3, in which they remark also that Web 2.0 and Web 1.0. This is interesting. It's like kind of like a generational way of wording, like talking, like new words that just some people get adapted to, like especially like maybe young people trying to distinguish themselves with the older folks. Like they want to say, make their own vocabulary and keep it like new. So the Web 3 is a little bit like that also, like this fashionable new way of talking about things. But if we go to a more technical, functional level, the differences that they are made is based on the accessibility to data of the database. So that's the main differences of the Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and Web 3. So as I mentioned, in the Web 1.0 the data is centralized, but it's still free in the way that you can, if you know the address www, for instance, google.com/news, for instance, and you can access the file. So you get all the news as HTML. So in the Web 1.0, it was free and data centralized, because the web server existed in a machine, in a server that is somewhere, usually could be in California or could be in China or Iceland. So these machines are very physical. So you access the file and you copy paste the file to your computer. So the Web 2.0 is data centralized still. Is, as I mentioned, is the relational database management system, but the data is still centralized. It's still in the servers. They have you have to have an access to. So you cannot access everything. It's not free anymore for saying that. You have to have permissions, and you have to pay for the information or whatever it is. Like imagine like a bank, like it's kind of taking care of what information gets out. So that's mainly the main feature of Web 2.0, the data centralized, as a relational database management system inside the machine in somewhere in the company's property. So the Web3, the difference is like the data is decentralized and free. Decentralized because the data is not just in one single machine. The data is all across different machines. Imagine like, you could imagine like a serpent, like a kind of like a string going around of different machines. It's something like that. Like the database is stored. You can just store like little parts of the string, and the other parts are stored in different machines, and so on and so forth. And it's not just one single string. It's like replication of strings, just in case one machine is down, there are other copies of that like little piece of the string. So this decentralized, imagine like a serpent, like a long string going around many millions of computers, and little pieces of this database, of this long string, are connected, encrypted, and they can be accessed. So in terms of data, centralized versus decentralized, that's the Web3 has kind of this revolution in the way that the companies don't have all the data in just one single place, in one single machine for saying that, but the Web3, they have it across many computers. So another distinction is how static, for instance, Web 1.0 is. The static websites is like HTML, like if you write a document in Notes or a simple document in Word, like just text. So that's what's kind of the main information on Web 1.0. And in Web 2.0, they were dynamic. Imagine like Facebook, like you have different refresh, like you have like a little portion of the text that is refreshing, for instance, the advertisement, or maybe the movies, or maybe the feeds of the news of somebody. So it's refreshing. So you don't have to refresh all the page every time, but just little sections of the page refresh, and they become new advertisements or new feeds, and this kind of more dynamic, more alive text exists on this Web 2.0. And Web3 is not exactly about the technology is related with what we started with blockchain. So it's like a database that is connected with crypto algorithms. So the database you cannot see like Facebook, for instance, but the Web3 is more like a transaction way, a transaction as computer, but people got very creative and not just like transferring a transaction data of computers, but also this translated into economic value or dollars or any yens or whatever. So the transaction system of I give you one like password and you give me one password, and then we understand each other kind of transaction. So this is the Web3 main characteristic. Like it doesn't have to be completely visual as the Web 1 or 2. But it's more like transaction based. And one very important definition that I don't find everywhere, but I really understand is abundant with the mindset of abundant versus scarcity. So in the Web 1.0, abundant was the mindset like everybody, let's have this copy of this file, of this text file. So everybody who could know the web address, they can access the file and they can download, copy paste, and they can see it, the text in their computers. In the Web 2, also is an abundant mindset. Like, okay, it is maybe private, but you can copy paste. You can distribute as you want if you have the permissions to do so. So this was this kind of a open and abundant mindset, not open, abundant. And the Web 3, I think the main contrast is the scarcity mindset. What it means is that they want this culture of Web 3 supposed to have some intrinsic value of one single series of characters of one file, just given a value, a special value, because it has just the right combination of letters in the file that no other file has. So this scarcity mindset, it personally makes me a little bit of not trouble, but kind of contrast with the Web 1.0 and Web 2.0, in which there's a scarcity about the files, which is a little bit contradicting with the conception of the internet. The internet is supposed to be abundant, free, open. But then Web3 comes and, okay, no, there's going to be just the value for one file. And this is going to exist one file and just one file that nobody can, everybody can copy, but it's not going to be yours. It's going to be just mine. So this is a little bit so different, not a little bit, so different from the Web 1 and 2, Web 3. And as I mentioned, functionality is the plain text in documents for Web 1.0. For 1.2 is social media. And Web 2.0, by the way, started 2002, 2003, imagine like Facebook when it started, until 2014, when it was the first NFTs based on Ethereum. And so it was the first Web 1.0 was around from 1990 to 2004, was 14 years. The Web 2.0 is about 10 years. So that makes a little bit also wonder, because usually when you go from generation to generation, you don't take that many years. I mean, the next generation should be less years than the previous generation. But what we're witnessing now is that the Web 1 was 14 years old. The Web 2.0 was 10 years old. But the Web 3.0 is now 8 years old. And it should be shorter. Like, it should be like we should be starting talking about the Web 4. But somehow it's not happening. I don't think it's going to happen very soon. So I think the Web 3 is staying here for longer. So this contrasts also why the Web 3 is more important that you can have like a lifespan of the Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. Why the Web 3 has to be longer? And that's also like, it's contrasting versus the previous two. I don't have an answer for that, to be honest. But in just like evaluating the trend and the lifespan of the previous Web 1 and Web 2, Web 3 should be finishing like in this year, and Web 4 should be starting in this year now, but it's not happening, and I don't have any logical conclusion of why. But Web 3 stays here, and I'm sure it's going to stay here for long, because it relates with a lot of economic value. That is the transactions, it translated from the transactions and communications between the computers to transactions in money. Somehow the translation of these transactions from digital information to dollars or to any currency is made, and then that's the trend, and I think it's not going to stop soon. So I want to make a little pause to have people, if you guys have any question or any comment.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know that Keenan, you have a question. So the reason that the Web3 has come into existence is because the people's concerns around, because Web.2 is basically controlled by big juggernauts, right? Such as like a Google or Facebook. And then I think what the people is concerned about is the content of ownership. I mean, ownership of contents. What you upload into YouTube, you don't own those contents. You create, but the Google owns it. So, if they want, they can just delete all the contents. So, and then Web.3, you have the ownership of your own contents. So is that the reason that Web 3.2, Web 3.0 has come into existence? Or I am sort of misguided with a lot of things. Thanks.
No, thank you. I think it's a very good observation, really, really good observation. Like when you upload something on YouTube, for instance, or you put a comment in Twitter or in Facebook, they belong, basically, the data is for Twitter, for Facebook, for YouTube. So you don't have any revenue stream from those. But nowadays, like, for instance, YouTube started with revenue stream. So you have like a channel, for instance, you can get revenue. And if you have a very successful channel, you can have a very good revenue for sure. But in Twitter also, they started to have these revenue streams. If you like a Twitter, you can donate money. But it is very new, I think less than a year. But this information, because we were thought like the people, the users, were feeding the system. So the product was not the information, we was ourselves providing the information. So we were giving the money to the companies, basically, to YouTube, to Twitter, to Facebook, and they were using that content for themselves and making rich themselves. So that's completely a very valid and very, very good observation. In the Web3, it's kind of very different. Like the concept of ownership is really a gray area. Like, for instance, even YouTube, you have a video and you upload it to YouTube. Obviously, you produce the video, and now YouTube has kind of the rights to distribute whenever they want in YouTube. But still, you have the video, and you can sell it. For instance, you can have a website, and you can have private access to that video as well. And also on YouTube, you can make it private for sometimes several people. You can hide it; it's not public for anybody. So there are ways in which, even though your video is kind of public, it's still not very open. You can restrict the access somehow, and if you want to profit from that, I think it is still possible. There are ways to do it. So you have still some control of whatever it is. But there's a basic rule of internet, like once it's an internet, it's forever. So that's what they are telling now children. If you put a picture of yourself in internet, don't think that it's gonna be deleted tomorrow. It's impossible. Once it's an internet, it's an internet. So the children now are educated that they should be very careful what they put in internet, and that's very true. There are many databases that they collect these very weird and bad pictures or good pictures, whatever. And once it's an internet, really is free and it's going to be accessible for many people theoretically. so that's the ownership part of you lose control of it, but still you can have some control. In Web3, what it happens is that the ownership is a little bit gray area. Like you have the file that you uploaded to the internet, and everybody can access it. Everybody can download it. You can have it in your computer. You can have, for instance, the CryptoPunks, many of the CryptoPunks in your computer without having to spend one single yen in buying one of these NFTs, zero. So the ownership, it becomes more like, I don't want to say fashionable, but I want to say like more technically based on the configuration of the file that you own. So there's a unique file that just existed once that you have the right password to access. So this right password is the way that you can say, hey, I have ownership of this because I know the password. So that's kind of the main, in a synthesis, is kind of the main difference between and like on YouTube, and if you upload, for instance, art in an OpenBlue, for instance, in these NFTs markets, in which you put art and then you have an NFT, everybody can download it, even videos or pictures. But the real owner is just the person who paid for the password and has the password, and everybody accepts that there's just one owner. But in reality, you can own. The definition of ownership is a little bit gray area. Like,
I know that's a very good point, and you have to please come back to discuss NFT because, like you said, the creator owns the content, but a buyer also owns the NFT, right? So I've been really confused about this, but there's two people waiting, so I should shut up. Thank you.
Yes, I think many people compare, for instance, with the Mona Lisa. When you go to Paris to the museum, the Museum of Paris, could be the Musée d'Orsay or whatever painting that you want to see, the Louvre, or you go to the paintings and say, oh wow, that's amazing. That I would like to have this in my house. And this is a unique thing that has a unique value. But you go out really, literally out of the museums, and there are people painting. And some of the paintings are very beautiful. Like, say, oh wow! And you're seeing the pictures, the drawings being made in front of you. Like it's not a computer or something. It's a real person drawing the pictures, and it's really very beautiful. So what is the value at the end? What is the ownership? Like, for instance, if you want to own the Mona Lisa, obviously the real Mona Lisa is in the Louvre, but you go outside, you walk out, and there's somebody who could make a very nice copy of the Mona Lisa that it could be like 95% similar in the traces and the drawings. Well, obviously, the paper is very new. The paper doesn't have centuries, and the painting also is not dry; it's still fresh. So there are many basic differences, but the drawing itself could be very, very similar. So you can love, like, oh, I love this new this person who's making the Mona Lisa. So you have a copy of the Mona Lisa in your house now. So what is the real Mona Lisa like? It's the one in the Louvre. Is the one in your house? Obviously, this ownership, many people will say, well, it's the one in the Louvre, obviously. But if you kind of attach some kind of sentiments, for instance, it becomes a little bit gray area. What is the real thing at the end? Like Mona Lisa, obviously the Mona Lisa is there, but you can have a copy that is very similar, almost identical, and you can say, okay, I have the Mona Lisa in my room. It's not the one painted by the person who painted it, but who cares? It's very beautiful. I love it, and I feel great. So in the same way, it happens with the files. Like very similar way. Like you have a CryptoPunks, in which is a 24 by 24 pixelated design of punks based on the punk scene of London or England. And by the way, it's generated by computers. So there was no person drawing the punks. It was like a computer who generated 10,000 of these CryptoPunks. And you can say, oh, I have the file of the CryptoPunks, which could cost them to $500,000. Just one single file that you can copy. You can have the file in your computer. Literally, like you can have those files in your computer, but you are not the owner of the files. You are the owner of the file is just one person who has the rights in the database. I was telling, like imagine like a serpent, a big serpent among the different computers. So there's one person who has the rights of that little piece of this big serpent on all connected computers. So that person has the password and the right to own in the way of ownership in the Web3. But still, the data is free in whether you can copy paste and you can have it in the computer. So the ownership becomes a little bit more different way in the Web3. It's more like a scarcity mindset and more like property based and in this crypto blockchain enabled database system. I wonder if that makes sense. It got me more confusing.
No, it is good. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the clarification. I believe that a lot of people are still confused, and I wonder whether it is when you were talking about, or Yuka, you mentioned this, that the content creators, they own their content on Web3, and the buyers who have that content, who have paid for that content, they own it too. So is it a kind of shared ownership? And so how many shared owners can you have there? So that's another question which I believe we can discuss also in other rooms as well, because we have Kenan. Hello.
So, hello. I have a question. So we have a value of ownership and value of content. So why wouldn't we combine Web 3.0 and a centralized database to secure our ownership and our content? Because some things don't have value in their ownership specifically.
Yeah, that's a good question. And it just like the algorithm when it was created, the blockchain, it created like a breakthrough in the way that if you have a database, because usually, let's go back a little bit, the databases can be altered. Like for instance, you have a bank, even though it's a established institution, it's a very secure database that they have, still if you're a super great hacker, you could go inside the database and you change many things and you extract money. And it's hackable. Like hackers can come inside the database. So the big concept, or at least that is attributed to blockchain, is that it cannot be changed. Like technically, it's very, 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 very difficult to change it because you just have to be able to decode this crypto. Like you have to be able to decode the crypto for each of the blocks. So it's not talking about like 100, it's about thousands or even millions of blocks, and all the computers as well. So when you have a blockchain, just the to hack, it's impossible to hack now at this very moment to hack the way of the crypto, because it's a password that is generated with a computer with a special algorithm that it's not possible to be hacked at this moment. And I want to say at this moment because quantum computers, they're supposed to be able to do it in the near future. So when quantum computers can break the hash cryptography, so they technically, the hackers will be able to come to a block and guess the password and then attribute and make the change. But then they have to go to another block and do it. So it's going to be a lot of work and to have a lot of power of both quantum computer and normal computer. But in the future, might be possible. But at this moment, it's not possible to do the change in the blockchain because that's what it's called block, because it's kind of a little piece of information, and chain because it's connected with crypto information like a password that is is impossible at this moment to guess or to produce. So you have a blockchain. At this moment, it's impossible to alter this blockchain. But in the other one, for instance, in the banks, even though they have a lot of security, it's still possible to hack, to come inside the databases and make the changes. And in any database, you can have many different kind of security, and you can put new security on top of security. So it's getting more and more difficult to do that, even in relational database systems. But still, it's possible. Like if you are an expert hacker, it's possible. So the ownership relates with that, like the possibility of nobody can alter. Nobody can change the database because once it's assigned, nobody can change it. If you have a password, you can sell the password to somebody else. Okay, I sell you the password. Now you are going to be the owner of the password, and I will not own it anymore because it kind of updates for saying that. So even though you knew the password before, you cannot know it later when you send it. So the security, the crypto kind of updates, and the new person who got the password has the ownership. So there are many stories about blockchains, for instance, people who store bitcoins in hard drives, and then for some reason the hard drives went to the garbage, and they have people asking for digging in the garbage or looking for the hard drives. Literally, these hard drives could be millions of hundreds of millions of dollars, and other cases like they forgot the password, and so they cannot access the blockchain, the bitcoins, so they cannot access the blockchain. So that's kind of a new kind of ownership problem. Like if you miss and you forget the password, it's like over, like you cannot have it anymore, even though it's there. The ownership also is not yours anymore. So this ownership is related with knowing the way to access the file, and more than anything else, more than physically tangible possessing the object. It's more like the understanding and the remembering the password for accessing the file. So that's the main concept of ownership in the Web3, and the usage. Of course, like many the Web2, the content is used by different platforms, but also you can use it. So it's kind of shared. And the Web3 also you can share, but the ownership is just the person who owns the CryptoPunks number 10,000 or 9,999 is the only one. That there's one person who just knows the password, even though you can really have it in your computer, but you don't have the right of knowing the password on the first database that was created for the CryptoPunks NFTs. So it's kind of gray area, but at the same time it's different concepts. Trying to merge the reality of ownership. For instance, I own a car, I own a computer, I remember the password for a file, which becomes now I own the NFT. So it's a little bit confusing in the way that ownership has extended its definition. The definition has grown, not for possessing tangible objects, but also to remembering passwords for files. I wonder if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I just wondered, like, there is something called gas price. Like when you release an NFT, you have to pay a gas price to compute the data, so you can secure the ownership of your NFT. Like for example, and that gas price isn't really low, so updating the database wouldn't be very like efficient, if I may say so.
Yeah. Of course, the gas price is getting more and more expensive. When the CryptoPunks, for instance, it was almost zero, like literally one cent of dollar or something. But now it's very expensive because, as you say, the electricity to run the computers, somebody has to pay it at the end. So it's kind of related with that, with the communication system. But also, like now they are putting more cash, for saying that, to the gas price, in the way that they want to have some kind of commission or whatever the transaction is, or just like the fashion, the trend of okay, you are making $500,000 for one NFT. Okay, I want to charge you $1,000 just for having the transaction be made. So it's a little bit both, like objectively the consumption for energy and processing from a computer, but also kind of this fashionable way of thinking in which you are making money. Okay, I want to help you making money, but I want to help to make a little money too. Kind of mindsets, if I understand correctly. So the gas price is getting more and more expensive for updating the systems, for just buying souls or buying bitcoins. You need to pay some money, some real money, just to have access to that. And I think it's the same, for instance, when you go to another country and you want to, for instance, you go to Europe and you want to get euros in Narita, for instance. So you have to pay for the money that you want, and you pay a little commission to the store that sells the euros. So it's a little bit like that, obviously, but it's getting more and more expensive. Like it passed right away what Narita's money exchange stores have. Like the commission is so much more expensive now than the relatively speaking. So yeah, and that's the trend. So it's gonna be I think more and more, I believe, in the future.
Well, obviously, computing the data of the transaction and so on. That's a very good analogy, Jovan. Thank you for making it. So it's like the commission fee you pay for currency exchange, or you pay for the service for the people who provide the service to you. So Ren, hello, are you there?
Yes, hello, how are you? Hello, everyone. Good morning. And hello, Jovan. Long time no see. Thank you for hosting this very interesting room. And I have a question. Actually, I have a, how do I say? I have an understanding. I want to make sure I understand this correctly or not. And I believe many people have the same question I have. So I hope this question is beneficial for not just to me, but for many people. So here's my question. Let me start from saying, I think you may remember on March 9th, I think the President Biden on March 9th signed an executive order on ensuring the responsible development of digital assets. And my question is about the digital assets, the world of digital assets. And I think there are two kinds of digital assets. And one kind belongs to Web 3 for sure. But the other, I believe, it belongs to Web 2.0, and that's what I want to confirm with you. The first type is cryptocurrency that we all hear very often these days. Bitcoins, NFT, all part of kind of cryptocurrency, and I think we all know this cannot be achieved without Web 3. The other part of the digital assets that President Biden was talking about is called digital currency. It's not cryptocurrency. It's called digital currency, or in more official way, it's called central bank digital currency, or CBDC. And to avoid the confusion, I wouldn't like to call it digital currency. I like to call it crypto cash. And I believe crypto cash or digital currency would not need to have Web 3 technologies. Web 2.0 can accomplish what digital currency or crypto cash are trying to do. Is my understanding correct?
Thank you, Randy. Really nice to see you again, and thank you for the question. And yes, I think you are correct. The U.S. central bank digital currency has already started doing some research and how they establish the digital currency. But I think it goes even more than that. Like, I don't think, I think maybe we have seen, obviously, for instance, China, the digital yuan, how China wants to establish the digital yuan as a world currency. And that's a very interesting effort that has not been successful. And I think it's going to be very hard to be successful in the future. That's, but it's possible. Who knows? I'm not.
Thank you. Would you care to share why some of the difficulties exist for the digital yuan, Chinese money?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the main objection of many people to adopt it is like it's centralized. So it comes again like this concept and gray areas where it goes from centralized to decentralized, digital to like physical, etc. So this is a new combination of crypto and centralized, which usually are not combined. It's like usually it's crypto and decentralized, but in this concept is crypto and centralized. So the Chinese government wants to control and to know where the money goes from where to where exactly, and control the number of coins, and etc., etc. So have a centralized control, and that has been the main hesitation of many adopters for the digital yuan.
I see. So my that's where my confusion is, I guess, because the digital yuan from China's money, digital cash for China, if it is Web 2.0, not Web 3, it is going to be inherently centralized, just like Facebook or, yeah. And so the US version of that, which is US Central Bank Digital Currency or CBDC or crypto cash, if 2.0, Web 2.0 is also the correct answer, then I think the American version of the crypto cash or digital money or digital currency will also be centralized. Am I missing something here?
That's something that maybe this new order is kind of the main objective to say, okay, it should be centralized, or it should be partially centralized, or it should be partially opened. So that's, I think, the order, as I understand, is to do the research and the suggestions of how it could proceed in the future. So in these 120 days or something. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So if it is even partially
Mhm.
centralized, which means partially decentralized, right?
Yes.
You have to get into a Web 3.0.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
I see.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that area is still kind of murky or gray,
Mhm.
not very well defined. Is that how you see it? And maybe that's why I'm confused.
Yes. There are other aspects that I forgot to mention in the beginning. Is the computational power and the energy for the Bitcoins, for instance. For the Bitcoin, it's very well known for the people who invest in Bitcoins that it's getting very expensive just to mine the Bitcoins, just to get new Bitcoins, to produce new Bitcoins in the way that it's produced. It's very expensive for the environment, and it's going to be more expensive and more expensive. So also the Bitcoin has a limit of number of Bitcoins that can be produced. So also this is a feature of the Bitcoin. So if we talk about the US central bank digital currency, I'm very sure they're so capable and are very smart people who have worked on this. Even people who maybe the Ethereum or people who help establishing the Web3, I'm pretty sure might be working together with them, and to define the features of how this possible virtual dollar, for saying that it could be. So I believe it's going to take the best features for everything. So it's going to be partially centralized, but also it's going to be not finite, and it's going to be not controlled by 100% controlled by the U.S. government, but it's going to be somehow like the emissions might be you have to have a permission, or you have to have a way of dialogue or communication with the central bank. So I think it's going to be kind of hybrid of what we have now, with maybe new features to establish kind of a new kind of digital currency for a US dollar. And that's going to be super interesting for sure.
I see. What you are telling me keeps on prompting me additional question. Maya, if you allow me, just one more follow-up question on what.
Yes,
what
yes, please go
because,
on. Yes.
Jovan, you are very good at stimulating my people's brain to think. Because based on what you said, right? Thank you. Based on what you said, my understanding is that the digital currency, the central bank's digital currency or crypto cash, it's really 100% endorsed by the government, by the US government. So there's really no need for data mining. There's really no need to worry about the supercomputer consuming all the energy. It's really encrypting and decrypting between two sites. And therefore, I have been thinking it's Web 2.0. And centralized bank by the US. If it is not centralized, I guess my question is, I don't see a need or an application where a government-backed digital currency needs to be uncentralized. It should be centralized because it's a government-backed cash. That's just like the cash you actually have on your hand. It's not backed by a bank or check or money order. It's actual cash. So there's almost no, how do you say? No other option but to be centralized, right? Again, maybe I'm missing something, and so that's my last question. Maya, thank you.
Yeah, well, yes, I think based on what we have seen in the past, that would be the case for sure, absolutely. But there might be cases in which, for instance, the government to government, they might be able to produce money and to mine money, or also, for instance, for contracts, maybe. I'm just hypothesizing, like I'm just imagining, for instance, the government makes permits a grant or gives a contract to Boeing or whatever, and then instead of paying, for instance, with dollars, they okay, you can now mine, and they give you like a password for enabling to mine, so you can mine by yourself. So it could be something new, like a hybrid that we haven't seen, in which the government still has some control, but doesn't have to do all the work, or still has the ability to outsource the heavy work, and in a win-win-win situation. So that could be the case. And something important that I mentioned before also is the crypto, the hash function, in which up to this moment it's not possible to hack, but many people believe 100% is going to be able to be hacked. when the quantum computer happened. So also these U.S. central bank digital currency, they need to think about that. Like if they use the current standard, it's going to be outdated mostly at the time that it start happening. Like this quantum encrypting the coding could happen tomorrow, literally. So at the time that the U.S. central bank digital currency makes based on the current hash cryptography functions, it's going to be outdated in the same day. So I'm sure they're thinking about that, how to implement new kind, and there are new quantum computer algorithms that have incorporated some crypto. So it's quantum cryptome. So that also might play in the quantum in the new currency that might happen. So I'm sure these people are thinking about this, and they need to think about this because once the quantum becomes able, the quantum computers become able to hack the cryptography of the Bitcoin, for instance, it's going to be like also for the yuan, also for any other based on the hash on the current cryptography function that we have. So it's a very hard task that they have to do, like to think about the best of the best, but also the best of the best for the future. Like they don't have now, so they have to consider what might happen in the future. So I think it was a very good strategy for the U.S. central bank to wait a little bit, not to hurry up in doing digital dollar, for saying that, so they can see the experiment, for instance, in China, and they can understand that the quantum how quick it's evolving, and they have better estimations now. So it was a very, very good strategy, and they can learn from everything and do a very, very good version of it. I wonder if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you, Maya and Timothy, for me to ask a long question.
Thank you, Ren. So let's see, Alvin.
Yeah, thank you for organizing this very interesting discussion. And I think there's not much time left, so I'll be quick. My key question is, I guess it's got to do with the socio-legal frameworks surrounding. Like I think the conversation earlier on was about NFTs. So I would like to kind of go back to that. And I think that the biggest problem that I have with NFTs is that I think a lot of people just, especially in the tech industry and the cryptocurrency industry, they like to claim that it's about ownership and it's about proving, like this certain NFT is unique on the blockchain. But then it sort of wipes away the question of the fact that, when we talk about copyrights, it's actually about legal frameworks. So within the legal frameworks that we are talking about, it needs to be there needs to be a sort of a way for sort of NFTs to be sort of recognized within those frameworks that that for example an NFT, because it is on the blockchain, it is therefore like the creator of this has the copyright that is afforded to all content creators. And the reason why I say this is because I think I saw a statistic previously that 80% of all NFTs that are minted on OpenSea are actually pirated. So you could just like steal a JPEG file from someone and then put it on, like mint it as an NFT and then sell it for I don't know like how much you want to sell it for. And also I think like we need to distinguish between on-chain and off-chain NFTs. For instance, I think CryptoPunks just put all their NFTs on-chain via like scalable vector graphics, but I don't think that's the case for most NFTs. And I think like something needs to give, and I see a lot of changes going forward in this space. So I'd like to hear like what are your thoughts, and how do you see like this changes, especially as they relate with like legal frameworks going forward in the future, and what we can expect in this space.
Yes, thank you so much, Alvin, for the question. Well, there's kind of one question with many sub-questions. So basically, the blockchain has different. The blockchain was the first attempt, and is very environmental expensive, for saying that you need a lot of energy to mine and to communicate. There are new algorithms that are supposed to be better for more efficient energy speaking. And they can be also more transactions per second, because also the blockchain is very slow to update everything. So also some concepts of related with the previous question from Ren is kind of hybrid of the centralized version. So there are different alternatives for blockchain. So this the legal framework is very interesting, because this blockchain technology, like we can say in general, can be used for different like smart contracts or like DAOs, which is a way of organizing people and their interests on the internet using the blockchain technologies. It's like a kind of like public ledger system, so people know what happens. Everybody keeps in history, and nobody can change it. And so if somebody says I'm gonna pay you this, or I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. It's a ledger that is written and it cannot be changed by nobody. So this is a system for ensuring many things, and that was part of what I wanted to talk also, the future of a little bit of what these technologies will go. And I think DAOs, the DAOs is very, very the future of what these crypto NFTs could become, in the way that a way to assure that people have the right transparency in the way that everything is written and everything can be accessible. But the ownership is another aspect. It's kind of a different side of the coin. Like the NFTs, the ownership, as we talk, for instance, of these CryptoPunks, which was the first NFTs, they can be owned. You can have a download on your computer, but you cannot really own it. And it's a little bit of both sides, and it's extending its capabilities and usabilities. As for instance, there are people who are using for valuing the how fake news, for instance, a person produces. So you can write down in a ledger how many right things and fake news you said, for instance. It's gonna create like a profile of credibility for people. So that's gonna be impossible to change. So people need to be very careful what fake news they say. For instance, there are starting to be examples of that. DAOs is kind of the decentralized autonomous organization using blockchain technology for making all the transactions and all the promises to be written in a ledger system. So I think that's the future of that's a very bright future that it has for this block like Web3 technologies. And the NFTs are very interesting. It's uncertain if there will be continue being successful or not. There have been many scams, as you said, and for instance, the CryptoPunks, there's literally like you can download the algorithm and you can create your own unique CryptoPunks in your computer and start selling them. Punks, the Bored Apes, there was another NFT. There was a Chinese case, a Chinese company would make very similar Bored Apes kind of NFTs, and it's a lot of like copy paste, and it's gonna be like more like that. So I think you have to be, if you want to invest, you have to be very careful in choosing the right people who know a lot about it, or the company who has invested a lot of this to make sure that you are not in a scam, because now it's very easy to be part of a scam, like trying to sell you the NFTs and it's not real, the NFT. And so that's my strong suggestion. Like if you are interested and you want to invest, be very careful and do a lot of your own reading and research and experimentation as well. But don't invest more than $5 so far. Like until you are sure that you know more about it, that you understand what is an NFT, how you can create an NFT. When you are at the point that you know how to create an NFT, I think you are ready to invest. That would be my suggestion. So I think there are many scams, and people for sure need to be very, very careful about this. I wonder if I answered the question.
Yeah, thanks. A lot of interesting thoughts there. Yeah, thanks. Food for thought.
Thank you. Jovan, thank you for responding to all the questions and to everybody who came up to share their doubts, comments, and points of view, questions as well. But I would like you to let us know if you are interested in having a continuation, a sequel of this conversation. So you can do so by messaging me via the back channel here. Just say yes. I hope that, Jovan, you are open to doing another session on this, because obviously there are a lot of questions still remaining.
Yes, of course. It's very interesting. And there are a lot of topics that I didn't touch that it would be nice to have a second session for sure.
Yes, thank you for that.
And yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody. And, one thing I think is really important for folks to know, Alvin writes a lot about this on Medium with the Japonica publication. So I really want to thank Alvin for coming up on stage, and also everybody else for your great questions.
Thank you, Tim. So thank you very much again to everybody. Ilkka, Ren, Alvin, Keenan. I wish you a great reminder of the week and a very productive day. So please join us again. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for coming and staying with us today. We will be on air next week on Thursday at 8 a.m. Japan time again. So join us. Until then, you can find us at JapanExpertInsights.com and our YouTube channel, where we upload all the conversations on Japanese politics, business insights, and the role of Japan in the Indo-Pacific region. If you want to stay informed about our upcoming events, you can follow us on Clubhouse, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Again, we're looking forward to your joining us next week. Until then, stay well and make the best of the day. See you.